4 over the square root of 3. Just like you can't have one x, you can't write 1 then an x beside it. Just like you can't have a double negative, just like you can't have 2 over 4, you also can't have a square root in the denominator, and you must get rid of it. The way you do that is to multiply the top and the bottom by that square root. And then on the top you'll have 4 square root of 3, and on the bottom you have something that causes many people fits. If I had the square root of 5 times itself, my answer is 5. If it were square root of 2 times square root of 2, the answer is 2. Anytime you times the square root by itself, you'll get that number under the sign. So in this case, we would have a 3 on the bottom. There is nothing more you can do to this. The answer is 4 square root of 3 over 3. The most common mistake is this. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3, square root of 3. That would be wrong. You get rid of the square root sign once you multiply the both of them together, if they're the exact same number. 3 over the square root of 2. We have to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 2, and you'll come out with 3 square root of 2 over 2. There's nothing more you can do to that. Clearly, in this problem, you need to get rid of that radical term in the denominator. But you should also notice that the square root of 12 can be simplified. You would be better off doing it this way. Don't try to simplify the square root of 12 first. Just multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 12 to come up with 5 square root of 12 over 12. But then you should recognize that the square root of 12 can be broken up as 4 and 3. The perfect square of 4 will go into 12. So the square root of 4 is 2. And then you multiply it to get 5 times 2 is 10. But you're not finished yet, because you have 10 over 12. That fraction can be reduced. 5 won't go into 10 and 12, both of them, but 2 will go into both numbers. So if you divide by 2, you get 5 square root of 3 over 6. And that is completely simplified. In this problem, you have square root of 20 over square root of 10. Whenever you have two square roots, one over top of the other, you can simplify them just like you would a regular fraction. 10 goes into both numbers, so you can divide the 20 by 10 to get a 2, and divide the 10 by 10 to get a 1. But what's the square root of 1? 1. And you don't need to have the 1 on the bottom, so the answer is simply square root of 2. And in fact, this and this is unnecessary even to write. You should be able to look at this after a while and know that's just going to be the square root of 2 on the top. In this case, you have the larger number on the bottom. And instead of multiplying the top and the bottom by the square root of 10, you want to try to simplify first. Cut them both in half, since 2 goes into both of them. If you do that, you get square root of 4 on the top and square root of 5 on the bottom. But still, don't multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 5, because you have a perfect square on the top. What's the square root of 4? 2. So we'll have 2 over the square root of 5. And now once you get to that position, you can multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 5. So you'll get 2 square root of 5 over 5. Before multiplying the top and the bottom by anything, make sure you can't reduce your square roots one over top of the other. You have a 3 over 6, so you can do 3 over 6 is really 1/2, so you could have square root of 1 over square root of 2. But the square root of 1 is just 1, so you really only have a 4 on the top. The bottom has a 3 square root of 2, but you only need to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 2. So on the top you get 4 square root of 2, and on the bottom you have 3 times 2. which is going to be 6. That 4 over 6 can be reduced. So 2 square root of 2 over 3. In this case, you have 6 over 18 in your radical terms. So you can reduce that. 6 into itself once and into 18 3 times. Of course, you don't need the square root of 1 on the top. So you're left with this that you have to simplify. So you multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3 and get 2 square root of 3 over 3. There's nothing you can really do to reduce this with the exception of the 10 and the 5 to start with. So 2 square root of 2 over square root of 3 could be done first. And then multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3 to get 2 square root of 6 over 3. And that's the final answer. On this problem, you have a couple of options. The main way to do this is to reduce this and this first. And you can cut them down by 4. So 6 square root of 2 over 5 square root of 3. Then multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3 to get 6 square root of 6. And on the bottom you'll have 5 times 3, which is 15. But you have to reduce this. 6 over 15 can be reduced because 3 goes into both. 3 into 6 twice, and into 15 5 times. And we can simplify the 24 over 18 first. You can take a 6 out of both to come up with square root of 4 over square root of 3. And notice that the square root of 4 is 2. So on the top, you could have 6 over, and then over 7 square root of 3. You're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3 and get 6 square root of 3 over 7 times 3, which is 21. But you can still reduce 6 and 21. 3 goes into 6 twice, and into 21 7 times. We should start by simplifying the square roots. 3 over 18 is going to be 1 over 6, and we don't need the square root of 1 on the top. So now we just have to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 6 to get 2 square root of 6 over 5 times 6, which is 30. The 2 over 30 can be simplified as just 1 over 15, so square root of 6 over 15.